Hello, Petra.
Hi,
Can you introduce yourself for me?
I'm Petra Alfred. What else do you want to know?
Will you please provide a quick background on your professional experience and how you got here?
I am a human factors engineer, and I started as a research psychologist, but got sent back to school for human systems integration after I was working with the Army, and that's how I got into doing human factors for the Navy. They sent me to the Naval Postgraduate School. So I got a master's in human systems integration after I already had an IO psychology master's degree. So it's a kind of unique background. Research psychology meets human factors engineering.
So you work for PSE. Can you tell me a little bit about them? What does PSE stand for, and what exactly do you guys do?
So Pacific Science and Engineering is a small business, under 50 people. We do primarily all human factors and cognitive psychology, research, development, a little bit of development. Most of it is in the design realm. We have a large human systems integration team that does like software usability. My role is primarily doing training analysis as well as the usability, so I'm kind of split across both in my projects.
I understand that you all work in teams. So what exactly is your role on your particular team?
Let's see, so we are team-based, but each team we kind of serve in different roles. Just depends on the needs of the project and what your background is. So sometimes I will be the lead, the project manager of a team, and other times I'll just be technical support. For the current project that I've met you on, I am the training analysis lead for that project, and I work with another team member that does training, and then we have another 3 people on the team that are more focused on the task analysis side, and then we have 1 project manager.
Okay.
Do you want to know more about what I do for the team, or?
Well, I do understand that you play different roles on other projects.
Yes.
So is your role basically the same for each, or what other types of roles would you possibly play, or have you played in the past?
So I have played many roles. There was a time when we were managing a group of different projects for the Navy that were all enterprise business systems, and I was in charge of that entire suite of projects. So I was more of like a business area lead. But now those projects left, so now that area doesn't exist, and so now I'm supporting other projects. But in those I was a project manager as well as a human factors engineer, and I had human factors and designers working below me, because a lot of what we did was develop user interfaces for software, and we would work with developers and help them translate what the user needs were into design so that they could then build them, and then we would test them to make sure that they met the needs of the user, and then we'd go back and forth to get the design better.
Okay. How long have you been working for PSE and within this particular field?
So I've been working for PSE for 6 years, and I was before that a research psychologist for the Army Research Lab in Texas, and I did that for 10 years, working for their Army Medical Department. It was a training facility, so it was where they did all their medical training for the Army. So we did mostly research on how to improve retention within the school, different school programs. We did mostly the Combat Medic program, which was their largest training program there, and they had the highest attrition rate.
So your first degree is in psychology. What were you planning to do with that originally?
Undergraduate, I thought I wanted to be a counselor or a clinical psychologist until I realized I would need to get a PhD. And I realized that I would be listening to people's problems all day instead of necessarily solving problems. And so I found out about organizational psychology, which was the one area of psychology they said you could have a master's degree and be successful in. So I took one course in that, and I thought, this is fascinating. So everyone has to work. How do we make people's jobs better? So that's how I got into that field, and then started working for the Army Research Institute, doing a lot of survey research. It was an internship during grad school, and that opened the door to military research, where I found the Army Research Laboratory, who's a much more human factors. They deal with the equipment and the systems for soldiers and making them better. So I applied and I got that job, and the rest is history. So that just started me down this systems approach, and then they sent me for school for another degree. And so I have this specialized background in helping military people do their jobs better, or making the systems that they use better so that they can do their jobs better.
Oh, that is very cool.
Yeah.
So this particular project is more on training.
Mm-hmm.
What makes that so much different from what you've done on previous projects?
It really was a new area for me at PSE. Actually, that's a lie. So when I first came to PSE, it was one of my Army colleagues that I went to grad school with that actually recruited me to come to PSE, and we started doing Army training research. So we traveled all around the country interviewing people to find out how to improve training. It was more like unofficial training that happens like on the job. And so we talked to a bunch of retired people in the Army, from Alaska to Texas and all over. So that was my first training project, and then she left the company and took that work with her, and so I started working on more of the human systems integration software stuff, which was totally new to me, but it had been what I was trained in, and I never had an opportunity to do that. So that was like the first time I was able to use my HSI degree in practice and do this usability testing and workflow analysis, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoy the collecting data from users. I think that's my favorite part of my job.
Well, that's funny, because my next question is, what is your favorite part about what you do?
It is connecting with our warfighters and doing things to make a difference in their life. So we find out what their challenges are, we get their inputs, and we come up with recommendations that are often implemented. Not always in the training realm. In the HSI, they hire us to make these software packages better. So we actually see the codes change and we see the end product. And then we hope that the people that we've talked to actually get to see that. And we tell them, tell us everything that's wrong with it. I mean, just completely be open and honest. And if it's not affecting you, it's going to affect the people that come behind you, and you're going to make it better. And so that's what I like. I like to see the knowledge from them be translated to the design or to the curriculum or to whatever it is that we're doing, and making their jobs better.
Oh, that is very
And their
cool.
lives better, because I mean, how much of their life, that is their life, you know,
Mhm.
they give everything.
That is very, very cool. Okay, so the next question is, what is the least favorite part of what you do?
Sitting in my office on the computer by myself, writing reports and doing, analyses on Excel or making PowerPoint briefs. I don't mind the briefs as much as the reports. I feel like briefs are that's our way of communicating the impact of what we do. And I don't mind doing analyses. We don't do as much stats as I used to do in my old job, which was a research lab. Now it's more we're hired for a job and they just tell us what to do.
Right.
So it's kind of like, all right, the bottom line, this is the impact. You're usually briefing someone pretty high up.
Right.
So they want to know, okay, what's the problem? How do I solve it? What's it going to cost me?
So you've been briefing a lot of high-level officials.
For a long time.
Yeah. So how hard was that to get accustomed to? I mean, you've got to know the ranks and you got to know how to interact.
It's been hard switching from Army to Navy, because I was used to colonels and generals, and now it's, you've got captains and admirals. It's a little different. Very similar as far as the pay structure is the same, but there's differences in the culture. But I always just view it as they're just people like you and me, and if you treat them with respect and at their, you kind of just speak eye to eye to them and find out what's important to them, then you can reach them. But that's the way it is in life. I mean,
Right.
it doesn't matter whether they're military or the guy walking down the street. You just find a way to connect. And I've just learned over time, they don't want all the details. There's certain people that want the details, and you have to give them the nitty-gritty of how you did your research design and how you came up with your recommendations. And there's other people that are more big picture. So most of the military are big picture when you get to the higher levels.
Okay.
So you kind of learn they care about the impact.
Okay.
So how is this going to affect me? And that's, as long as you drive what your story you're telling, that's the other thing, storytelling. So you want to be sure when you're giving a presentation that you set it up in a way that you're telling a story to them.
Okay.
And I don't know if that comes clearly to everyone, but it's something that I've learned over time how to do, and so that's why I said I don't really mind doing the PowerPoints.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
feel
because
like
that's
I'm telling a story, and I like talking to people, so it's almost like I come alive when it's like getting on stage when I'm doing a presentation, and sometimes you kind of have to fake it till you make it.
yeah. So do you enjoy that part? The
Yeah, and I do
interacting?
conference presentations too, so I'm active in the Human Factors Society,
Oh.
nationally and locally. So I do a lot of, like, we have to write professional papers and then go and give presentations, and I've volunteered to be members of, like, or lead the group that organizes certain sessions and things, so I have to get reviewers and then put together the program, and so yeah, I keep myself really busy.
It sounds like you're very involved in the community. What other kinds of things do you do within that community?
So with the Human Factors Society, there's the national group, and that one I've been the program chair for the System Development Technical Group, which is kind of like a little niche, military niche within the Human Factors community. And I found a way to talk to other services so I could keep in contact with all of my Army friends. Because when I went to Naval Postgraduate School, it was all services that were being trained in HSI. So I have some friends that are now in charge of the Army's HSI at the Pentagon. And so I get to see them when I go to these conferences, and you learn from them. I like to set up panels and just bring people from multidisciplinary. It's the same field, but they're all from doing different things in human factors.
Okay.
So I bring them together and then they present. It's a great way to stay involved in the community.
So what exactly does human factors mean?
That's a good question. It is we help people, products, and processes to meet the capabilities and the limitations of the humans that use the system. So it's not like we know the answers to everything. We have research approach, and there is science on certain things, like there's viewing angles, and if you're using a desk, there's ergonomics. So ergonomics would fall under human factors. Anything that could improve human performance.
So do you guys, is the whole least common denominator factor a big part of what you do?
A big thing in human factors and ergonomics is you want to design for, usually you meet the needs of the 5th to the 95th percentile of people. So there's always going to be people that are kind of in the extremes. You don't necessarily design for them unless you're NASA or something, whereas you want that spacesuit to be perfect for that person or for a race car driver. But for the most part, we want this door to be tall enough to fit most of the people. Yeah, we're not going to make a door big enough for the basketball players that are 7'5". But
Like my nephew.
they're going to learn to duck.
Unfortunately. Or tilt their head to the side.
Or tilt their head to get through the doorways. But for the most part, somebody said, okay, what level do we put this counter so that people can work? And it's not going to work for everyone, but it's going to work for that proportion of people.
And then you come up with the adjustable chairs to match, to make
Yes.
the other people comfortable.
And
that makes sense.
Human factors is so huge. I mean, there's things, people look into the cognitive, like how people think about things, to how people are touching things, grabbing things, your grip strength, your decision making, what process you use to make decisions, how can we make decisions better or faster, medical applications, in a surgical suite, the communication that's happening between the doctors and the anesthesiologists, and so it's anything that has a human performing that could be improved.
Which is practically everything.
Yes.
Okay.
And so my area has just gone into military, mostly software systems and training systems.
Okay.
Because of my IO, psychology, and human systems integration background.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is very,
So
very
that's why
awesome.
while I was talking to the people, I'm like, we really should be helping design this thing instead of just helping with the training.
Mhm.
Because if we make it easier to use, you don't need as much training. Because a intuitive product like an iPhone, there was a human factors person that works for Apple that made it easy to use, and it keeps getting better as they keep pushing the updates.
Yeah, because you guys take a lot of feedback into consideration for pretty much everything you do.
It's data driven, yeah. We're not just going to say this is what you should do. If there's research that backs it, we're going to take all of these articles and we're going to tell you this is what previous research has found and this is what our user community is saying, and then we're going to come up with a solution. So it's kind of cool because there's never really, you're not doing the same thing every day. Every day is a different challenge and you're solving problems. So that's what I always say is that I solve problems.
It sounds kind of like your work is very organic.
There are a lot of artists in my field. So, and that was actually something that one of my friends that was the president of the Human Factors Society last year brought into the conference. Was she had all of these human factors people that were artists present their work at the beginning gala, and you could bid on their artwork, and it all went towards some type of charity, human factors related.
That's very interesting because you guys are very, from what I've seen in your work, you're more technical.
We are technical and we're scientific, but there's a creative art to human factors. People would say it's not a real science, which drives me crazy because I've been to school, I have the master's degrees. It's not like we just come up with answers to things. We use data to support what we do, but we're not a chemist. So it's a softer science, it's a social science.
Okay.
It's fun, I really like it because it's been able to take my math brain and my music and arts love and kind of merge it together.
Oh, that is very cool. So you're an artist and you're a geek in a way.
I like writing and I like math. So I have this weird balanced brain.
Oh, that's
So-
very cool.
So I can analyze stuff and then write a report about it.
That's interesting. So on a more personal level, I know you have children. How do you manage your work-life balance with all the work that you do and all the travel that you do? How hard is that?
It's challenging. It was harder when I was not divorced. Now that I'm divorced, he has them during the week, which has happened because of my work schedule. It just works out better that way to be able to travel Monday through Friday, which is typically if I have to travel to the East Coast, I can leave on a Monday and come back on a Friday and get my user assessments done or whatever important meetings I'm going to done in those 3 days. So.
Do you usually work just a regular 40-hour work week?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's good.
I make it a point when I leave the office, I'm done. I check my email occasionally because I like to know what I'm coming into the next day, but I try not to respond to it until I get back to the office because I think it's important to separate the two.
Oh, that's very good because that's one thing I've noticed in the past is that people who have these types of jobs tend to be always busy
working.
and always working, and very married to their work.
I love what I do, but I think if you work smart, you don't need to work over the 40 hours.
And that's the psychology part of it.
And it's learning how, if you're working on a team, like what are the strengths of the people on the team? getting them energized, and that's the IO psychologist in me too. It's like what motivates people in their work. So you want to give them those tasks so that you do what you're good at and you enjoy doing, and then it doesn't feel like work. And people will do things over and above what they need to do if you give them the right thing to do. So that's also part of being a project manager.
Right. So it's about finding what they're good at and what they like to do.
Yes.
I mean, because you can be good at something and not like it.
And in my field, it's not like we're just doing the same thing over and over again. People come to us because they want the expert to help them solve their problem. They may not even know what their problem is yet. They just know that there is a problem. And so we have to investigate it, and then we get to solve it. But really, we're writing the whole thing for them. So it's an interesting field.
Yeah, we can't really talk a lot about the project itself, but I've talked to a lot of the people who are involved in it, and they're extremely impressed with the product that you guys delivered and the level of detail that is involved with it. And it was really interesting because a gentleman that we ran into today, he has stolen it, and it's in his office.
Oh, the training report, or yeah.
Well, the map.
And the map, task mapping.
The map, yes. And he said, and Sonny asked for it back, and the guy said, I want to frame it and put it on my wall. So I mean,
we're very proud of our work. So it's not, as they'll say, it's not cheap. Mm-hmm. But if you want the job done right, you're going to hire the people that are going to look at a problem deeply, analytically, creatively, and come up with the best solution. So it had to be done.
Yeah.
This work hadn't been done before. It was very tedious. It took a lot of time. It took a lot more time than we thought it was going to take. But it has demonstrated our capability to a new customer, and it has led to continuing work.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you've got to put in a little extra just to show what you can do.
Well, it's a really fascinating, it's like it's a roadmap almost, that because it seemed to me that they were constantly running into dead ends. Mm-hmm. And you guys, what you created, gave them an avenue to take all these different roads and yet never actually run into a dead end.
Yeah, it's not a dead end. So it's a starting point. It's a building block that can be built onto, improved. You can go to the level of detail that you need depending on the application. So if there's one new thing that they're going to be building, they can look at that specific part of the task flow and even go deeper. They could use that. I mean, I just have so many ideas. I mean, they could use that to go meet with users and find out, while you're doing this task, what are the challenges that you're facing? Take that input, feed it back to the people building the system, and improve that capability to the system. So I mean, there's endless possibilities of what you could do.
And it seems very dynamic in regard to the abilities.
What we do is very hard because we're always selling people what is human factors and what value do you provide. You're like, this is expensive. It's just the extra fluff. We don't care if they like it. It's not liking it. We don't really care we care if they like the product, but it's more of performance. If we can show the difference that making this product, just like we were talking about with the games, mm-hmm. You need to demonstrate that this is making a difference to their learning, something that was not ever considered before. It's like, oh, maybe we should look at how it makes a difference if we were to give this game to a group and not give it to another group.
Right. And it's a big learning tool. We briefed the captain today on what we learned during the 3 days.
We'll have to talk about. I want to hear how that went.
Yeah, it was actually very fascinating, and he was extremely thrilled. And it is amazing to me to watch the reactions of people when they see these new tools and how beneficial they are to their projects.
Especially people that know the domain, they've worked in these jobs, they didn't have these tools available when they were learning.
Right. And that's what they were talking about today.
If I would have had this
yes.
when I was in school. It's like this took doing this for years before it finally gelled. And now it's like, wow, I could have played a game.
Every single one of those games, the captain was like, oh my gosh, you guys should have had this 30 years ago. When I was learning this, it wouldn't have taken me 3 years to learn it. It would have been a 10-minute lesson. So that's pretty impressive.
And that's
too.
what I found about the people as they climb up the ranks in the military. I feel like they get more invested in it and they really care. I don't know. I really like briefing the higher level ups.
Yeah, it seems like
I used to be intimidated by it, but
yeah,
I feel like they are the decision makers. They really care about it, and so they could make a difference.
Okay.
So if you just take that approach when you're meeting with them, and they put their pants on one leg at a time, just like we do.
Yes, absolutely.
And they have families, and they care about the sailors. They care about keeping people alive
and keeping everyone safe.
Safe.
Yes. Absolutely.
And if you can make them more effective, I mean, that's awesome.
So I'm going to ask a question, and I will cut this out if I need to.
Sure.
But because of our conversation prior to starting this video, what are your goals, aspirations, and dreams for the future?
My dreams for the future are to continue doing human factors and continue having more responsibility, managing more projects, having small teams of people. I never want to be away from actually doing the work. I think that's part of what keeps me going. So if I were just pushing papers all day, I'd be totally miserable. So I think it's increasing my technical skills, and I think having other people, mentoring other people below me, I think would be something that I would look to do in the future.
Oh, that's very cool. Mentorship is one of the biggest factors of people like us, because we've went through everything and we can show someone else.
And they have so much to offer. So it's not like I'm above them.
Mm-hmm.
It's I'm helping them discover their potential. So I think that's what I like.
Yeah, we're not above, we're just ahead.
We're ahead. I mean, we're experienced.
Right.
We're not old.
Oh, age is only a number. That's what I keep hearing.
21 with 40 years experience. No, 20 years experience, right? Not 40,
exactly. All right. Well, Petra, I want to thank you very much for this information and for coming and agreeing to do this interview.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was definitely a pleasure, and I got a lot more information about what you do, and I have a great appreciation for you guys and all the effort that you put into the products that you deliver. It's really an amazing thing that you do, and to see the reactions and everything that happens after the fact, because I came into this very late. But seeing how everybody is so thrilled and excited about the things that are upcoming.
It's a great team. I think we all bring something to the table, and I'm glad that we're all working together to improve training for this community.
It's been a pleasure definitely working with you and getting to know you. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Likewise.
All right.
Bye.